Live.
Hey, we are live now. Welcome everybody to Hump Day Hangouts episode 270. Today is the 15th of January. Man, we're already we're what, halfway through the month. So halfway through the first month of the year, and we are rocking on with Hump Day Hangouts. And wouldn't you know it, my mom is calling me right as I get started. All right, and this is where I follow my own advice. I'm gonna put it face down over there. So we're gonna keep rolling with this instead of hopping on a phone call with Ma. But let's instead of speaking to her, say hi to everybody and see what's going on. So Bradley, you're up top on my screen. How you doing today?
I'm well.
Man,
you want more?
Use 3 adjectives to describe how you're doing today.
I'm well. Things are good. Yeah, things are good. I've got several things popping in my real estate business right now, which is kind of exciting. And we got 2x your agency or double your agency coming up. I believe next week, starting that, and that's been fun, kind of preparing for that. So got a lot of cool things to share.
Good deal. All right, Hernan, how about you? You're jumping up and down, so hopefully things are going good.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm doing real good. It's good to be here. Dude, your mom doesn't know that we do Hump Day Hangout every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern.
You don't know. She could have been calling to be like, Adam, have a great Hump Day Hangout. You're going to be great. You're awesome.
Right. We've been doing this for the past 5 years, dude. Come on. I'm really excited for what's coming. I'm really excited for the launch of 2X Your Agency. It's going to be awesome. We have some really good stuff planned for everyone that wants to learn how to increase their revenue, get more agency clients. So if you own a digital agency, stay tuned because this is going to be awesome. As usual, we try to disrupt the industries that we go into. So this is not going to be any different. So it's going to be awesome. Stay tuned. It's launching soon.
Yeah, I think something too that one of the POFU Live attendees said to us, or rather he wrote it, I believe it was on Hump Day Hangouts, but I like this one. I'm going to run with it. He said, we're the unicorns of internet marketing. So there you go. That needs to be plastered all over. Maybe we'll get a little unicorn and put it at the top of Hump Day Hangouts.
Right. You need to change the camel to the unicorn.
The camel corn. So
yeah.
Okay, before we go totally off the deep end, Marco, how you doing today?
What's up, man? I'm doing good. If I can just take just a little bit of time, and I gotta pull that up because I gotta share this with people. The charity is doing really well, right? The donation drive, but what we've come up with is just a way for people to benefit from donating to the charity. And lo and behold, now I can't find it. But I mean, we have a whole list of things that we're giving away. As a matter of fact, you and Hernan each donated 2 half-hour slots, right? For one person. I'm not going to share my screen, but I know Bradley donated an hour. I donated 2 hours of my time. So 2 people are going to get an hour with me. Then Rob donated an hour. Not only that, we're going to tag team someone for an hour, Rob and I, and get them going in the right direction as far as their online presence and everything that they're doing is concerned. Jeffrey Smith donated an hour. Stephen Kang from the Facebook group, the SEO Signals Lab, he donated. He's going to take you through whether the potential ROI for whatever it is that whatever market you're in. So he says nobody else has what he does. So whatever that is, Kang is a beast, and we have that. We're giving away Drive Stacks. We're giving away SEO Shields. We're giving away Syndication Academy. And so if you haven't donated, right, for whatever reason, now would be a perfect time to donate so that you can catch the next webinar, which is the giveaway webinar. And I keep talking to people, and I keep before I forget, Jeremy from Press Advantage donated 3 done-for-you press releases. So 3
Nice.
people are each going to get a done-for-you press release, so you can see what this is all about in case you're curious, or if you use them, whatever. And this is randomized. We already have it where it's going to be randomized. Once you win a prize, you're no longer available for any other prize, so that as many people as possible can benefit from all this. And I'm leaving a whole lot of, we have a list, and I wasn't able to find the page, but just so everyone knows, it's just a whole bunch of just great information
a whole bunch of things that I'm sharing that I wouldn't share otherwise. And since people have donated to my favorite charity, it's my way of giving back. And then on top of it, as if that weren't enough, as if giving you like the keys to the kingdom, we're putting a cherry on top by giving you even more. So there you go. I just want to get that in, guys. Go donate. I'll drop the donation page. If that's not enough to get you going, I don't know what is.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know it was a great result over the holidays, even leading up to it. And like Marco said, I'm not going to go on and on about this, but you're definitely helping out a good cause. And hey, at the same time, you get to help yourself. So win-win. Chris, how you doing, man?
Doing good. Just packing stuff, leaving tomorrow noon. So super excited.
Good deal. Where are you going?
To the very, number one, to the tallest mountain of Austria. And on that and on the backside. So no internet, no nothing. And yeah, I'm super happy about it. About time that I take some time off. Digital detox, how they call it. So yeah, super happy.
All right, well, sounds good. We just got a few things we need to run through before we get into questions here. And speaking of questions, if you're just joining us for the first time, thank you so much for being here. This is the place to be every Wednesday, 4 p.m. Eastern. You can ask your questions. I do have to say, if you're asking questions, we try to keep them pretty short and succinct. If you ask a really in-depth question or a lot of questions in a series, we can't get to them. We might have to skip it. If we have time, maybe we can come back, but we always tell people limit it to one question. And then if you're attending live, you can come back and ask more, after that. We just want to make sure that everyone gets a chance. I know today we had at least one really in-depth kind of multi-part question come up. So I wanted to say, to that we're going to be able to answer what we can, but some of that stuff goes into way more detail than we would even have the time to answer here. So make sure you guys keep it as short as you can, but we do appreciate all the questions. And like Hernan said, I want to touch base on this again, because next week we're going to be doing something a little bit differently next Wednesday, just for the intro. Next week, W Agency is going to be kicking off. So like Bradley said, Hernan said, we're excited about it. But we're going to be talking a little bit more about that, again, explaining, exactly what you can expect from that. And then there's definitely a very special chance for people who are subscribers who attend Hump Day Hangouts to find out more about that. But Hernan, you mentioned it real quick, but do you want to tell people a little bit more, just kind of who this is for and where we're intending to go with this?
Yeah, 100%. So we're really excited about it. And the reason why is because for the past couple of years, most of our audience has been mostly digital agency owners in one capacity or another, right? Maybe you have a couple clients, maybe you have 2 to 3 clients, and you want to take it to 5 to 10 clients, or maybe you're dealing with a whole team. You're going out hard. You have like 20 clients and a team of VAs and whatnot, and whatever that is right now. In order for you to take it to the next level, you need to learn new skill sets. Maybe it is to prospect a little bit better. That is to always have your pipeline full of new leads that want to talk to you, that want to hire you. Or maybe it is delegating a little bit better, right? You cannot do it all on your own. So just imagine if you were from 5 clients to 15 clients in a week, there's a high chance that you will potentially go crazy. So how do you solve that, right? So basically we sat down and we asked the audience what they wanted. And one of the main things was, I need more clients. I want to get more clients. I want to get more productive. I want to double my revenue. So that's where Double Your Agency come to play. So it's going to be a really in-depth program where we're going to take people that have a couple of clients again and want to, get those 5-10 clients that they want, or maybe they want to completely revamp their business. I'm going to be showing you how to do it through paid advertising, SEO, PPC on Google, Facebook ads and whatnot. We're going to be teaching you stuff that you can deploy for your current clients and you can charge more money. And last but not least, how to actually build your team, delegate, and set up processes and whatnot. Remember, guys, that we have like 20 plus VAs right now working for MGYB. So we kind of know our stuff when it comes to generating process, hiring those VAs. We have had VAs working with us for the past 5 years. Growing your personal brand. So it's all going to be there. It's going to be pretty awesome. And yeah, really excited to get that going.
Sounds good. Definitely. We'll have more coming out on that. If you haven't and you're watching live, you can sign up, put the link down below to get early notification of that. That will definitely pay off. I highly suggest you do that. And also wanted to mention that if you have not gotten MGYB emails, you should head over to MGYB, sign up. We got some really cool things that you can get for free if you're not quite ready to take advantage of all the great done-for-you services over there. But right now, there is a sale going on only for MGYB subscribers, 25% off all link building and embeds, which is awesome. I think we've already had, I don't know, 10 or 15 people already taking advantage of that today. So you can get 25% off. A little bit of a flash sale celebrating the beginning of the year here, helping people out with their projects. So I'll pop that info though onto the page here, and you can go and grab that stuff. So with that said, do we got anything else before we get into questions, guys?
Yeah, one more. Anyone donating will have access to all of the past webinars and last year's webinar. So even if you're thinking about that, you're only going to catch the last webinar, that's not so. You're going to catch all of them for just a simple donation. And as I said before, I'm not asking for any amount. Said it before, your heart is going to dictate whether you donate, and your wallet is of course going to say how much you can donate. So I don't want to put anyone out. Just do what you can.
Sounds good. All right, guys, let's do it.
Sweet. All right, let me figure out where I'm supposed to be here. Okay. I think I got it. You all seeing my screen, correct?
Yep.
All right. Looks like we're going to start with, that's Keith Goodwin. Look at that super spun article. Do you recommend, what's up, Keith? It's been a long time, man. He says, do you recommend to allow pingbacks from IFTTT Network sites on main sites? What is your take on pingbacks in general? I think that's like 2008 technology. I don't know that those have been beneficial in any way, shape, or form for many years. So I've always disabled that stuff. I've always blocked, that's just standard operating procedure. When a site is deployed, I just disable comments altogether. So that includes pingbacks and all that, trackbacks and all that crap too. Does anybody have any reason why they would suggest ever using any of those?
I have nothing recent for that, man. I stopped doing that. So here's the thing. I'm not saying that they don't work or that they do work. They did have their place, but we moved on to something else, right? It could be that people coming in and interacting with the website and getting all of that activity will have a signal for Google, a positive signal. But since it's not something that I've tested, I would only be able to theorize about it. The other stuff that we do just works so well that we haven't needed to go in and check whether pingbacks still have their place in SEO.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't. I think a long time ago I'm sure there was some SEO benefit to it, but I haven't used them since, God, I want to say probably 2010 or 12, or probably 2012, somewhere around there is when I just always started disabling all that stuff. So, and I haven't never looked back. So I don't think they're helpful at all, Keith, but maybe somebody some way has found a way to manipulate them. It's such an old kind of feature with WordPress that I'm sure if there was some sort of super cool hack, it would have been exploited to the point where it was terminated anyways, so.
Yeah, it's been there forever, like since the beginning of WordPress, I would say.
Yeah.
Mostly because if you would leave a comment or if you would like leave a link on that blog, will ping back to the post if it was WordPress and whatnot. So, and then you will have a lot of pingback spam as well.
Yes.
I remember like going through and deleting a bunch of them. So yeah, I haven't used them.
Which is part of the reason I eliminated them entirely, was because of that. I got tired of having to go in and clean out pingback, trackback spam, and that kind of stuff. So Ralph's up, he says, hey gang, how do you get the 5 stars that show up in some Google searches? It seems to be random, but I've never been able to accomplish this. It's with structured data. That would be what they call review schema. And so you can do that by marking up like product reviews. It could be customer reviews, so basically like user reviews, that kind of stuff. But that's all accomplished through structured data. It has to be added to the web page correctly and then validated before Google. And that's no guarantee that Google will pick it up and display them. But that's how you put your site in a position to have the review stars show. Marco, is there any secret tips for that?
No, I mean, I really don't have anything.
Okay.
It's in the schema, right? And sometimes they appear, sometimes they don't. And Google came out not too long ago advising against, because they see this as just being self-promotional, and that's not the intent. Not to say that it does or doesn't work, because sometimes what Google says not to do works really well, so you keep on doing it. And so this is just totally the structured data on the website. There's a way for you to get the stars in there. It's not something that I bother with.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I bother with structured data. Don't get me wrong, but I don't. There's some plugins and things like that, some third-party services that you can use that will import. Like, for example, I can't remember the name of the plugin suite now, but they have a Yelp plugin, a Google My Business plugin, and a Facebook plugin. So it's essentially a plugins for WordPress sites that will import it. It connects via API to Google Maps, Facebook, and Yelp. And so what happens is it will pull in for that particular business location the different reviews that are published on each one of those sites. And so you can buy each plugin individually or buy them all together as a suite. And what happens is that actually imports the code. It's like an iframe. I guess it iframes in the code from those review sites, so that it's essentially not you pasting your own structured data into the site, which will show reviews, which is what Marco was talking about, because Google thinks, Google knows people can spam that, but it's actually pulling in publicly posted reviews on other review sites. And that's a good way to do it. And I've actually been able to accomplish that using the Google My Business one for I've got a roofing client that we weren't able to ever get review stars to show for his site, yet he had hundreds and hundreds of Google reviews. And I mean, across all the different platforms, he had hundreds of reviews on each platform, but we could never get the review stars to show. And then I added the plugin. It was a premium plugin, but I added the plugin that pulled in the Google My Business reviews. And we just embedded the widget in the sidebar of his site so that it was constantly being updated with new reviews. And that actually ended up pulling in, that actually triggered the review stars to start showing for the site. So I know there's other ways to do it besides just adding your own structured data, but typically that's how you would do it. Is just add structured data. Okay. Another one is from Ralph, says, one of my clients had 6 of his GMB sites removed by Google. They were home addresses of people that worked at his company. Why would Google do that? And would PO boxes without using PO box in the address be the best thing to get ranked in 8 other suburbs? That's a good question. I mean, I'm curious, Ralph, as to, were all 6 suspended at the exact same time, or were they suspended at different times? There's a ton of questions I have for you regarding that, because, for example, if I'm assuming it's a service area business, right? Because you wouldn't have other GMB, other GMB profiles for storefront businesses, right? Because that wouldn't make sense. Then that would be like 6 separate locations, and that's not the way that it wouldn't work. So I'm assuming it's a service area business, and that you hid or chose not to publish the actual physical location of the business because it's a service area business. And if that's the case, then I can't imagine how it would have been suspended unless it was something that, you were editing the GMB after it had been verified. I don't know that that's still an issue, but I know many months ago, there was kind of a threshold. No one really knows what that threshold was, but once you cross that threshold with a number of edits of your GMB profile, that it could trigger an automatic suspension. I know because I experienced it with one of my clients. It's a 100% valid business and has been a valid location for many years, and it got suspended. And again, it was an automatic suspension just from making a change to the GMB listing. And all I did was publish the GMB website. Believe it or not, for some reason he had a GMB website that wasn't published. I clicked the publish button and it suspended it. So my point is, there's a number of things that may have triggered that. My question is, like I said, were all 6 suspended at the exact same time? Because if so, then there had to have been some identifiable footprint that connected those sites together, other than through the brand, but that also triggered them as being identified as spam. And also, again, I don't know if that was an algorithmic or it was a manual suspension. They don't give you that much information, so it's kind of hard to determine. Marco, do you have any comments on that?
I would just have to guess. I had one suspended, and in fact, it's the LAN Solutions Network companion GMB.
Really?
And nothing. Yeah, I mean, so the entity was tight. The entity was really good, and we did nothing to it. That's the whole thing. We had not gone in there in about a month, and then all of a sudden, well, I can't remember how long exactly, but all of a sudden it gets hit and gets suspended. So that's definitely algorithmic. If you're not in there triggering anything, then it was just a random I don't like this for whatever reason in the code, and it got hit. Yeah, I'm curious too to know what was being done to the in those 8 GMBs that they would all get hit at the same time, or did they not all get hit at the same time but separately? And since this is all in people's homes, what I would suggest is that each one of these people, you get them to call Google and get them to try to get that suspension lifted. Go through the process of getting it lifted, because a home business is a legitimate way to get a GMB.
Yeah, the only thing would be difficult to, unless, because sometimes depending on, you can contact Google My Business support and try to request reinstatement. And it depends on, sometimes they're going to require you to jump through a bunch of hoops. Sometimes they won't. So for example, let me make an example here. The one that I was talking about was it's an outdoor pest control client of mine. One main GMB that's he's been a valid location. He's been in business for many years, never had any issues whatsoever. And then it got suspended. And again, all I did was click the publish button on his GMB website, because for whatever reason, it was never published. And I don't know why, but anyways, so I submitted as a manager to the GMB, right? So my account is attached as a manager to the GMB. And so I submitted the GMB reinstatement request, and it was a 2 to 3 week backlog at the time. And it ended up taking like 4 weeks before I got the rejection email saying that they had rejected it because it didn't meet quality guidelines, which was total bullshit. So, and that was it. That was the vague rejection response that I got. So I emailed to that, replied to that rejection email with like, can you give me some explanation as to why it doesn't meet quality guidelines? This has been a valid business. It's been serving local customers for, the past 7 years or however long they've been in business or whatever it was that I said. And, anyways, long story short, it just was ignored. That went into oblivion somewhere, that request for more information as to why it was suspended or didn't meet quality guidelines. So anyways, I ended up contacting the owner, who was listed, his primary Gmail account was listed as the owner, the primary owner for the GMB. So I contacted him and told him, like, I was ready to say, okay, look, we're just going to have to start another GMB from scratch, which would have sucked because this was his main location I put a lot of work into over the years. But he said, well, is there anything that I can do? And I said, well, if you want to attempt, I'll give you a quick tutorial video showing you where to go and how to do it and what to say. But if you want to attempt as the primary owner account to request reinstatement, do so. Let's give that a shot before I try starting with a brand new GMB all over again. And he agreed. So within about, I think it was less than 10 days, the next day he submitted the request based upon my instructions. And I think it was less than 10 days. And we got the notification. Well, he forwarded it to me saying that it had been reinstated. So the reason I tell you all of that is because if you have different GMBs, it depends on how you had them all together. Do you have one owner? Like, are they all under one GMB account? Are they all under separate GMB accounts? How are they connected? Do you have a common manager through all of them? If so, then that means they have, if they have individual separate primary owners, then the primary owner, I guess, could go in and potentially try to request a reinstatement. that would be difficult to do if each location, like if it's all part of one brand. You just got to be real careful. And there's a couple things that you could try to get that reinstated as well before starting all over, is my point. Because if their home addresses, as Marco said, you could potentially verify it, even if they required you to do like, take photos of the office space and things like that, because you're allowed to have a home office, right? You're allowed to run a business from a home, even if it's a service area business and you're hiding your physical address. But you just have to prove that there's like business being operated at that location. But again, it would be a lot of the times they want to see like, corporate logos and they want to see, mail being sent. That I've had to do that in the past with another client, Mario's Cab Service, where we had to have a utility bill that had the company name on it with the new address on it, because we were changing locations in order to re-verify a listing. So, I mean, there's just a number of things that they could require you to do. I would try to go that route before starting new ones if possible. But, as a last resort, if they were suspended, you could always try it again. PO boxes are a good alternative. Somebody's house is hands down the best way to go first. If you have access to somebody that will receive a postcard for you at their residence, that is hands down the best way to go, in my opinion. But if you can't do that, then in my opinion, the next best is the PO box method. Remember, you do not put PO box in the address field when you're trying to register. It will automatically reject it. You have to use the street address option, which means you go down to the post office, you rent the PO box, and you tell them you want to use the street address option. And then you have to fill out a separate form. It doesn't cost anything additionally, but then you get to use the street address of the post office itself, and then you get a box number. So you don't put box, you just put the number sign and then whatever the box number is. So like 123 Main Street, number 212, right? Any town, whatever. That would be the address that you use, and that still works. It doesn't work 100% of the time, but I would say probably 80% or greater it does. So those are good questions. All right, CJ, I guess is what I'm going to call you. He's got a lot of setup here for a question. I'm not going to read through all this, guys. Anybody watching this can read through the questions if you'd like. I'm just going to get cut right to the chase, which is, how would you approach making this decision? What matters and what doesn't? And what are the pros and cons of each approach? And so essentially he's asking, he's got a brand site that he wants to utilize some of the other content and, content assets that he has out there. And he was considering creating separate like satellite feeder sites to use to kind of push traffic from those sites into his main entity, but they're all tied together. So I'm going to give you a very brief answer and then let Marco expand on this a lot more because he's the our entity guru. But I would say no, keep all of those feeder sites essentially within the same brand. So either if you want separate websites for each one of them because you want different design, and that kind of stuff, different functionality for each one of those sites, that's perfectly fine. I would use subdomains of the primary asset, the primary entity, the primary website. I would use subdomains if you want separate websites, but that way they're all still tied to the brand. They're physically connected to the brand through the domain, right? And then I would still make sure that you consistently brand all of those so that you're not ambiguating the entity. That's number one. But if you're not worried about different design options and functionality for each one of those types of sites, then you should, and I Marco mentioned this prior to us starting the webinar, but I totally agree. You should keep them as inner pages. You will get more benefit by building out, you could even build silo structures for those types of content types within the site and use it that way. You get more SEO benefit using inner pages than you do from subdomains, but subdomains will give you some additional options that you wouldn't be able to use with inner pages. So either one of those are going to be the better approaches than trying to build separate websites. And then Marco can talk more about how you can utilize MGYB to help with a lot of this fulfillment and to get the most results that you can from this sort of a structure.
Yeah, what I'm thinking about is we clone the money site, right? And so if he's got these different parts of the company, sections of the company, however it is that it's going to be structured, I definitely go with inner pages with companion inner pages on the G side and drive stack targeting those keyword sets. So he wants more SERP real estate, right? But I would argue that what you actually want is to go further up for your top level keyword, right? The market level keyword, because what we've seen from that approach is that when you start targeting that top market level keyword, is it brings everything else up. So you'll be ranking for a whole lot of keywords that you didn't even think about just because you targeted that top level category. And then when you see that there's keywords that are sticking, maybe second page, maybe towards the bottom 9, 10, you can isolate those. I mean, we have the webinars at MGYB that show how to add power to your drive stack and push that power over to the website. So I would say focus on that so that your website, your main brand, your entity produces as much power as possible and brings up as many keywords as possible, and you add those inner pages. The only way that I would go to a subdomain or to a separate website is if it were just a completely different part of the business that would break up the semantic relevance if it were included on the money site. Now, if it doesn't, if everything is totally related, then you put that in an inner page, and what you do is individual schema for each one of those inner pages that relates those pages to the main brand. Look at what all of these different companies do. Look at what Google does. Google definitely takes advantage of the subdomains, right? They go the subdomain route. That's one way. Another way, Apple has it all on the main domain. Amazon has a lot of this stuff on their main domain. What I would say is you get a whole lot more power, and you'll be ranking for a whole lot more keywords a lot quicker if you add the power to the G site and companion drive stack and push it over to the money site, because then everything benefits, right? Everything that's on that route, all of those inner pages, when you're pushing all of that power, the entire website is going to benefit from all of your efforts. That's how I would approach this.
Yeah, the only thing, I agree, but like, for example, the glossary site is one of the examples that he's talking about. I think that would be better suited on a subdomain, like glossary dot whatever your domain is, only because I think that's kind of, I mean, again, you could do it on an inner page or even a separate category within the site. I think that's kind of more of a reference type thing, could be on a subdomain. But like Marcos said, is if you can work with it in the existing like layout, the design, that kind of stuff of the existing site, then you can accomplish that with interpage stuff. But the second best option would be subdomains, in my opinion, but not separate websites altogether, because you want to make sure that you're continuing to tie all of those together. Structured data could do all of that together as well. If you have proper structured data across all of them, you're going to be tying the entities together, or the entity together, through all those different assets anyways. So that was a good question. Very long setup. Fitz is up. He says, what's up, Fitz? He says, when embedding links into a Google site, is it better to iframe the sheet with the links into the Google site, or is it better to iframe each link and embed them one at a time into the Google site? I don't know how you iframe each link unless you're talking about each individual file. So I'm not sure I understand the question, Fitz. Embedding is good, period. Like, that might be the easiest answer. Marco, what do you say? I don't think I can understand. I'm comprehending the question fully.
Yeah, Fitz, I don't know why you would be looking to embed individual links on a G site. That's what you get the spreadsheet for. And that's exactly what we do. We embed the spreadsheet. If you need to go to another page with the spreadsheet, then by all means, and link build to everything, so that the entire, again, you have to think of this as a whole. You can't break this up into little pieces and think that one is better than the other, unless there's a purpose for that individual link embed, unless you're pushing power from an inner page over to a money site inner page, and that's what you're trying to accomplish with either that iframe or that link. Otherwise, there's no reason. Think about it. We, literally have thousands of links on that spreadsheet, right? When we turn it into one of our clients. And if we were to embed each one of those links, instead of the build taking between 6 and 8 hours, it would take between 6 and 8 days. So there's no reason for that. We get tons of power the way that we do it. And the only other reason to do one, not all of them, but one, would be when you're trying to isolate keyword and isolate power, so that you can push from that drive stack to the G site inner page to the companion money site inner page.
Very cool. Okay. Jim says he missed donating last month. You can donate at any time, correct, Marco?
You can donate at any time. Before, after, all of the replays will be available. We have a webinar coming up on Monday, so you're still in time to be at the next live webinar. And I might do another one after, because it depends on how confused people are. And I see that from the questions and from the comments and everything during the webinar, whether it needs another one. So there might be another one. This one will be the 6th one, the one that we'll be doing Monday. So there's a lot of information. There's just so many things that we need to go into, because the way that we approach it is basic principles. But just because it's basic principles doesn't mean that it's simple, and it doesn't mean that it's simple to explain, and it doesn't mean that people will grasp all of these concepts during the first go around.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a lot of content too for, and all that's requested is a donation, no matter the amount. Which
yes, if people want to see the information, like what's actually being given away, I posted the link in there. Right to the.
Yeah, you mean for the prize list and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, the charity information, so they can go and take a look.
Right there.
Look at it. Look at that. And we keep adding to it.
Wow. Very cool. All right, moving on. Next one is, looks like from Joey. He says, hey guys, I have a client who's ranked on page 1 for a few keywords, but his bounce rate is high. So now he wants to change the layout and content up on these pages. As he says, rankings don't matter if everyone just bounces. We're trying to optimize the site for conversions by changing the images and unstructured data, like so the content of the site basically, or the content of the page. Would that confuse Google and hurt our rankings? Well, yeah, I mean, it can't. I don't know that it will confuse Google and hurt your rankings. It will cause dancing though. Structured data is not enough to hold the ranking. I mean, I can't say that for sure, but it's very likely that it will start to dance if you significantly change the content or the layout, the structure of a page. It's going to typically dance almost 100% of the time. It's going to dance. That if all you've done is if you haven't changed the theme of the page much, that it was still likely going to dance, but it will probably end up settling in the same location, maybe a give or take, plus or minus a couple of positions, but it will likely end up in the same, as long as the theme of the actual page hasn't changed much. But that's hard to tell. And who can determine what, how can you determine if it's changed that much, right? So the thing is, if you made an improvement, it's going to dance, but then it should come back to the same location, if not better. Like when it finally settles from the dance, it will likely end up settling even better if you've improved the content. If whatever you've done is decreased the ranking score, so to speak, which is also possible, then it could end up settling lower than where it had originally been. So it's likely that you're going to see some changes and all that kind of stuff. But I agree that you should, conversion optimization should be a focus, keeping people on the site. But I do have a question before we get some other opinions in here on this. And that is, how do you know that the bounce rate is truly people landing on the page and bouncing back? And the reason I say that is because I know now it's been a while since I haven't built a new website except for my own, which is Alpha Land Realty. I haven't built a new website in quite some time. So I know there used to be a known bug with Google Analytics that you would add just a snippet of code to the analytics, the universal analytics tracking code, that would change what they called what was event timing or something like that. It was a way to prevent people that landed on the page and then clicked the back button within a certain amount of time from being counted as a back or a bounce, because they stayed on the page for 2 seconds or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was. If I went back into my files, I could find the specific code and the parameters for what it changed. But I know that there was some known bugs in that. That may have very well been fixed, because it's been probably a year and a half, 2 years since I've had to actually install that. But I know that there had been some known issues from that. So, I would just question, first of all, have you validated that is indeed true bounce traffic, number one? And number two, if that is the case, then, I do agree that you should be working on trying to keep people on the site. And there's a lot of little things that you can do to make them dwell on the page or even scroll a bit. All of those things will actually prevent a bounce from triggering. Right, dwell time, scroll depth, like those are taking some sort of engagement, like a link click or something like that. Those all will prevent it from registering as a bounce. Marco, do you have any comments for him or anybody else for that matter?
Yeah, the one thing here also is are you in a niche that naturally has high bounce rates? I mean, your client in essence is right. What good is ranking if the people coming are bouncing? But that would be if you have a 100% bounce rate. The people that he is getting, it depends on what each person, what each lead is worth, and what each closed client is worth to this person. All of that needs to be taken into account before you make changes to a page that's ranking number one for keywords. So there has to be a heat map on that website so that you can know what people are doing on your website and why they're exiting. So before you even think about making changes, right, for conversion rate optimization, you have to see what people are doing on your website. The only way that you can do that is through a heat map. Yeah, if analytics gives you entry and exit pages, and you get some superficial information, but the only way is through those heat maps, so that you know where it is that you need to place your CTAs, maybe your phone number, maybe your form, maybe you need a form on the sidebar. There's a whole bunch of things that are involved here. This isn't just a simple, I'm gonna change shit around and see what happens. No, because then once you do make the changes, you could even increase the bounce rate if you're not sure what it is that people are doing on your website. So I'd be very careful.
Yeah. Let's see. I think they would call it an event tracking code or something like that. I can't remember. That was anyways, for analytics, it was a known bug, but
yeah, I still have it, but there's also a plugin, reduce bounce rate.
Yeah,
works really well.
A plugin that will do something exactly what automatically inject that code snippet, which is supposed to fix that. But yeah, that's right. Reduce bounce rate is a plugin. They even have a premium version of it, I believe. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, I was just trying to see if there's something else. John says, can you use the same syndication network and ROIS stack for a subdomain? Sure, you can. I mean, think about it. If you have let's just assume that you're going to put WordPress on a subdomain, it's going to have its own RSS feed, right? So you can use that. I mean, again, you want to, if it's going to be the same brand and everything, there's no reason to have a separate syndication network if it's the same brand. What I've talked about in the past is, for example, let's say you've got a multi-location local business that you're working with. Then what I like to do for multi-location businesses is have the root domain. So the companyname.com, for example, would be the root domain. And that's basically like generic info about the company, their products and services, about them, that kind of stuff. But if they have multiple locations, then each location will get its own subdomain WordPress installation. And then each one of their individual subdomains, or locations, which has its own subdomain site, has its own RSS feed and all that kind of stuff. But I like to blog from the root domain, or have my team blog from the root domain, and set up I always talk about having, we talk about theme mirroring, but you mirror the category structure to match the location. So in other words, you would create a category for each location, and then you can actually publish blog posts from the root domain that syndicate out to the syndication network. and you just make sure that they're placed within the proper location-based category, if that makes sense, so that you can do all of your link building to your subdomain through the content that's published to your root domain blog. That's one way to do it, because now you have all these different locations, but you're feeding content from one source, which would be your root domain. However, you could do it the other way around, where you have one branded syndication network, and you have each individual subdomain publishing content from their specific locations, but into the branded syndication network. Reason why we do that is because there's no reason to have multiple branded syndication networks out there. That could actually get you in trouble for being a footprint, unless you made them like location specific, or, you know, in this case, it could be topical specific subdomain syndication networks. But all of that becomes more complicated and it's unnecessary. Try to get results with the least amount of effort is always what we say, right? So having one branded syndication network that you syndicate all the content from that brand to is in my opinion, the best route to go. And then you would only add additional syndication networks if needed. And as long as you know how to structure that properly to where you're not going to cause any problems. So the short answer is yes, you can, and you should be using the same if it's for the same brand. Okay. Now, Blake, I think you've asked this question for multiple weeks and we've never gotten to it, just because that always comes in as a late question. So he's asking, how does Google determine the breadcrumbs, the first layer of breadcrumbs? And as far as I know, that should be from the domain. In this case, it looks like, I mean, yeah, I'm seeing as on a mobile level, and I'm used to looking at desktop, but I'm pretty sure that the first layer of breadcrumbs is determined by the domain name itself and the association that the domain has. Like in this case, that's just showing, what do they call it? The favicon image, right? So it's pulling the name brand from the name, the entity's name of the website, right? So the name, but it's usually coming from the domain anyways. And then also that it's pulling in the favicon. But again, I'm not 100% sure. That's how I assume that it works. Mark, or anybody, does anybody have any other data for that?
Yeah, I can tell him definitively that it's according to the website hierarchy, but you can play a little bit with schema. Now, don't let Google catch you fucking with schema, right? That are outside the parameters allowed for structured data. But there is, if you go to schema.org / breadcrumb list, one word, then you'll see how you can start or give the bot an indication of what your schema should be. And if you scroll down, you'll have the markup in microdata, RDFA, and JSON-LD.
You said it was breadcrumb schema?
It's breadcrumb list.
Is there any
LIST.
hyphens?
Yeah, / schema.org /
Yeah.
breadcrumb list, one word.
Okay, schema.org / breadcrumb list. Why is this not working for me?
I have no idea. Let me drop it in the chat in Slack.
Oh, because it's capitalization sensitive, and you need to have a capital B and a capital L. That's why.
Stupid.
Okay. That's like one of those bit.ly links, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So there you go. You can read through this and see if there's anything that you can manipulate. I don't usually do it, but let's see.
Look at the use
right there is JSON-LD for breadcrumb.
Yeah. Look at the use of @type and @ID. And that sets up your breadcrumbs. You're telling the bot what your breadcrumb list is.
And then what that breadcrumb is referencing, that's the ID page, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of cool. I've never looked at that before.
I've been diving deep into all this shit, man.
I've never looked at that before. Something else you could probably do, I don't know if this is what you're going after, but let's see, favicon generator. This one, I believe it is. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is it. One of these does a really good job. I'm pretty sure it's that one. It's the only purple link on here, right? I think so. Yeah. So this is the only one I think that I visited just recently. Maybe that was it. Anyways, there's one of these will do. It's not this one. I think it's this one. Anyways, one of these, you know, even if you've already got a favicon on your site, I would take the same file that you used and upload it here. And then what happens is once it generates the favicon, it creates a list of HTML commands that you put into the header of your site that will have the favicon display on different systems like iOS, you know, and the Android or the Google Play Store, you know, all that different kind of stuff. And so it's just a snippet of code that tells different, it takes your image and creates a whole bunch of different formats or versions of it. You upload that zip file and then extract it into your root folder of your domain. And then there's the HTML directives that will tell the browser which to go to, which version of the favicon image in the root folder of your domain to go to and to display. And that might actually, you might be able to do something like that to get it to show up in, to show something specific if that's what you're trying to do. And I don't know that that is, but like these images over here, I don't know if that was what you were asking either, but I know that there's something that you probably do there too. So, all right, I think that's it, guys. Do we have anything else? Because I don't see any other questions. Anybody want to cover anything else?
No, just be aware. Go to 2xyouragency.com, sign up there because it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Like Hernan said, more coming next week.
Okay, cool. Well, let's wrap it up then, guys. Well, thanks everybody. Oops. Let's try that again. Thanks.
Donate to the charity. Get caught up on what's working right now and what will be working for the next 3, 4, 5 years. It's what's been working for the last, I don't know, 15 years only. So get caught up.
I do have something we could talk about very briefly. About I know that there's apparently like another update has occurred. do you have any insights on that yet? Because I hadn't even noticed until, as always, somebody posted in one of the groups. Has anybody noticed any dancing or jumping or bouncing? So,
I have. I'm seeing an upward trend because we're working. I'm calling it entity-based, worryless SEO. Because we work on the entity, we present it right. Then at the unstructured data level, we make sure that the entity is also represented well in the unstructured data, so that when the bot, and then we just spam the shit out of the bot with all of the information referencing our entity, so that it has no choice but to say, this is the best entity on earth. And then lo and behold, here we go. And it just starts giving you love left and right. So all of these people saying that yeah, they've had negative results, they dropped, they're tanking, whatever. Come on over to the dark side. Come on over and take some of this medicine, because we got the cure for what's ailing you. I'm telling you. I mean, I'm looking at all of our stuff, and all of our stuff that has a good an entity, a well-defined entity, unambiguous entity. It's just moving up. I mean, the traffic that it gets is just crazy, and the way that it's reacting is crazy. But it may be a little bit too early to tell. You know, it might settle because Google will do a hard push. This is supposed to be a big update, and then they'll when they start affecting some of the big sites, they start rolling it back, right? And they collect all of the data from all over the web to see what happened with the update. That's usually the MO with every Google update. But ever since we came out with RYS Academy, Syndication Academy, we packaged it all up, and I call it the SEO Shield. And of course, we have the SEO Shield packages at mgyb.co. Ever since we started doing that, dude, I don't worry. Like, all of these people are in there, they're freaking out, and they're losing traffic, and they're losing their lives, and it's like, oh my God, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. I'm not seeing it. I'm sorry. Now, if I were to go and test and see, yeah, I could probably put something out that would get penalized. But why do that if I don't have to? If I can just shield myself from everything that's happening, and my clients and whatever it is that we're working on keeps getting love. That's how I see it.
Cool. All right. Thanks everybody for being here. We will see you guys next week.
See ya.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everyone.
See ya.